Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We are here for episode 2 of Moffat Books Presents Edge, a virtual book club where every day we give everything. Edge of your dream. Every day, give everything. Escape, read truth with Moffat Books. So before we continue, make sure you hit that like, subscribe, share, and notification bells so that you are notified every time a new video drops. Also, make sure if you haven't done so already that you head over to my website where you can get my book and the interactive guide, which pair perfectly together so that you, the reader, can experience the growth journeys alongside the characters in the book, which is what we will be featuring for the first series of book club meetings. Episode 2 features journal entry number 2, which is titled Take Inventory. That's right, we are focusing on what things we should include in our love inventory. Now, just to be completely transparent with you guys, I haven't had a lot of experience when it comes to dating and being in long-term relationships. I'm a little bit of a late bloomer, whatever. With that being said, I wanted to reach out to some of my friends who do have experience with relationships. Some of my friends are married, some have children, some are dating, and some are engaged. But I wanted to reach out to them just to get an idea of what things were in their love inventory. And here's what they had to say.
Things that I want in a relationship.
Number one is personality. Personality is a must.
The willingness to understand,
to feel safe,
Respect,
Intellect,
patience,
a communicator.
trust,
her articulation.
mutual attraction.
security,
I make music. They need to understand that that also is part of me.
and someone I can grow spiritually and mentally with.
What's non-negotiable?
Nothing is non-negotiable for me.
I'm dating somebody that does not allow me to be myself.
Infidelity,
Self-esteem.
Anything can be brought to the table and discussed.
As a man, a lot of our value kind of comes in what we bring financially to the table.
lack of ambition,
We both got to work. We both got to push forward to try to build a better life for each other.
I can date somebody that expects me to do everything.
and disrespect.
I'm not the cleanest person in the world, but I'm not slack. So she can't be slack at all.
My happiness does not only stem from a relationship with somebody else. They are a part of my life, but they're not all of my life.
Ideas about what love should look like or shouldn't look like come from
A lot of trial and error.
Observing those around me.
I've dated around.
real life situations.
Being with different
I'm
women.
dating around does not mean sex.
Heartbreak,
Being fruitful in my younger years.
Friends, family,
My parents.
TV,
not TV.
So as you can see, there is a plethora of things that we all pull from in terms of what we think we should include in our love inventory. And the sources that we pull from are kind of all over the place. And so I'm super excited to introduce you to this couple that I met during my time in Detroit, Michigan. They are so transparent. They are so real. And while they love sharing their peaks and the great things that are happening, they will also share the real and the sacrifices and the daily decisions that they have to make in order to continue to make their marriage work. So without further ado, Gus and Marlena, please go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hello, how you doing?
Good.
So I'm Marlena Augustus.
Augustus, yes. And you have been married for?
Almost 15 years. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So it's been a journey. Yes.
Yes.
A
And
good-
how many?
We have 4 boys. We have 4 boys.
boys. Oh, this episode features or kind of models after the character Zariah, spoiler alert, in the story, who talks about how she only had an inventory list of things that she did not want concerning love. She only had non-negotiables. And so eventually she found that she was saying no to everything and didn't know when it was time to say yes. Let me ask this. This might be a little dangerous. Okay. Did you have like an inventory list of things that you wanted or things that you didn't want before getting married?
I think I had like a subliminal undisclosed list, one that like I never like if anyone asked me then, I probably wouldn't have been able to articulate it, but in my mind, I did have one. In my mind, I wanted to be with someone who came from a two-family home. And I love how Marlena, how she loved her mom and her dad. She was always talking about the both of them, and both of them were very much present to this day. Like they call every day, and I just wanted that. And not just the whole just mom and dad, but just the whole family. The first day we met, she was talking about her aunts and her uncles, and how much involved they were, even as an adult. So it was just like the whole idea of family and everything. And I was like, man, I love that. I dig that. I did in my mind, I wanted someone who, if I may, who was wholesome but wouldn't mind being freaky. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Yep.
That was something of mine, and yeah, and I liked her skin.
But did you, before you met me, did you have light skin, dark skin?
Here she go.
Yeah. Did you have like, oh, she needs to have a this
So,
look, that look,
so
or
yeah, so like so physically, um, all dudes like we want fat booties and all of that. But physically, um, she met on my checklist. She don't think that like I know. So she is like the first. She is the darkest girl I dated, but that is what I wanted. I always wanted a darker skinned girl. Like I did, but just being honest, like dark skinned girls when I was growing up was kind of always the underdog. Like even like I even remember like clowning girls with, oh, you dark skinned, and making little jokes or whatever. Um
and you secretly wanted to date him. No, I'm just
yeah. Yeah, you know, it, that I'm like, I used to clown her because she looked like this, but I really low key thought she was cute. But um, so like, so for me, I get everything I wanted. Like as far as like my checklist, I
Okay.
know I know I was too short for her.
Okay.
But I'll let her say that. But like so for me, I get everything. I wanted her, but wasn't too big. Everybody wanted suburban, but you got to be able to fill that gas tank up. You know, whatever, whatever that may mean. Um, Marlena is very curvy, but I like the fact that she covered it up. It wasn't like, and I think do with the upbringing. It was still very wholesome. It was still very like, hey, it's a body up under here, but it wasn't just like on display. And I like that. To me, that was more sexy than putting it all out there.
How old were you guys when you met? I'm
I
sorry
was
if you don't mind
mhm,
sharing.
yeah, I was 18.
Okay, so at 18 you knew. So ladies, there are men who know that they don't want someone that has it all hanging out, right? Even at 18. So don't use that as an excuse or think that you have to, dress a certain way or do a certain thing to attract men because you're hearing that someone at 18 knew like, okay, they might be good to look at because I know you were looking, Gus, but it doesn't mean that's who I want to settle down with or have a family with, right? So
That part, have a family with, settle down with.
Marlena, did you have a list?
Okay, so I'm not gonna lie. Yes, I did. I had a list. I wouldn't say I didn't have like a long list or anything like that. You know how some people, well, these are like the top 20 things that need to happen. No, it wasn't like. Um, I did like taller guys, as you heard him say, but he is pretty tall. He's not short. He's not. He's 6 foot. So he's not short at all.
Mhm.
Um, But I did date guys that were like 6'5" or so, but I mean, I either like them light skinned, like all the way light skinned, or all the way dark skinned. It was like no.
No mocha chocolate.
Yeah, I didn't even say that I didn't like them. I just, when you're thinking, when you're young and you're like, oh, I just want the sexy dark
Mm,
skin, tall, you never really, I mean, it's a list that can be changed,
okay.
so when I did meet him, we kind of clicked. And so it was kind of like everything that I had on my list kind of went out the door. Okay. I mean, not went out the door, but it kind of it changed. Like some things I wanted a guy who went to church and um loved God and everything. And as Gus has said in his many testimonies that he's had before, he didn't grow up a Christian. His dad was Muslim and everything. So when we first met, he was still really finding out who God was. He had a friend in high school who kind of helped him with that. But, I did want him to have a belief system in God. And I did tell him, like, if that's not your priority, then we can't be together. So those were things that I did look for, like the physical aspect change. It was, I think, for me, it was more so what was on the inside, and how he treated me. um, did he respect me and things like that. 17 years later, I'm still happy with my choice. So
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I'm still happy with my choice. I love that. That's like so that's
it,
packed. Like that's a very packed thing to say. You know what I mean? Like 17 years later, I'm still happy with my choice.
It wasn't just like I do, and it didn't just end at I do.
Hmm.
yeah,
It's a continually it's a choice.
Every day is a choice.
Every day it's a choice.
Do you guys believe that there are some things that, or did you have some things on your list where you were like, I don't care if they have everything else. If they don't do this, like it's a deal breaker. Do you think
yeah.
people should have deal breakers or things like that? Or do you think everything can be adjusted?
Well, the one deal breaker that I had was he had to have like a relationship with God. Like there had to be that for himself, not just with me or not just for me, for himself. So with me, that was, since I was raised in the church, that was very important to me. I wanted to raise our family a certain way. And so I'm a firm believer that what you accept in the beginning, you're
Yeah.
going to have to accept 15, 17 years from now. So if I would have accepted something that I didn't totally think that would change, then I would have to be okay with it now. And that's not how we want marriage or relationships to go.
Even though I wasn't where she was, okay, I was always raised with the fear of God. I think around middle school, my mom made it a point like, "Hey, we going to church." And as I got older, I kind of like was trying to like detour away from that and kind of do my own thing and kind of cling to the beliefs of my father. My father was Muslim, so I was really trying to like kind of cling on to that. I knew I was kind of like on my way, you know what I'm saying, and I knew that ultimately I didn't want someone who would just like, because I would talk to girls who would come to church or whatever with me to support me in my playing, but I didn't want that. Ultimately, I wanted somebody not just to support me in my playing, but someone who was going to church for their own relationship with God. So it was, for me, it was kind of like the same thing. It was I ultimately wanted the same thing as well. And for me, like when I seen her, like she was on fire for God, like, and she was very serious about it, and that's what was important to me.
There's a couple things you guys were talking about, like Gus, as you were speaking, when you were talking about how even though your level of commitment or your level of faith was in terms of Christianity wasn't necessarily as strong or as like on the same level with Marlena, but you knew where you wanted to go. That reminds me of like being equally yoked, right? Like we always teach, I think, I it's weird. Like the when I was younger, we used to always hear this like, oh, be equally yoked. Like that means that both of you have to want the same exact thing, be in the same place, doing the same thing, and then you come together and now everything is perfect because you guys are the same. But really it means to be like attached and moving into the same direction. And so, depending on where the turn is, one person leads the turn. And when you turn this way, this person then has to lead the turn and it balances out, right? And I think that was such a beautiful thing because when you were saying how you knew where you wanted to go. And so, in the beginning, it's like you're turning this curve. And then you guys were serving. When I met you, you were serving as youth pastors together, right?
That's what it is. Like if he would have said, "Oh, I'm not going to church," or well, yeah, I don't really agree with that. Then I would have had to say, well, well, we can't be, because then that's when unequally yoke, begins, when trying to compromise with what he, if he doesn't want anything to do with God, then with me trying to still pull and tug, then that's being unequally yoked, and I couldn't do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes the other way around too. Like I know plenty of brothers who are in relationships with girls who um, they want the complete opposite, and that's and I really encourage my sons, and I encourage any brother to really take lead in that, to have your own relationship in God.
Yeah.
You know, and it's crazy, like we always quote it, love your neighbor as yourself. Well, I can't love her if I don't love myself.
What influenced your list?
Like how I brought up the whole complexion thing.
Uh-huh.
My mom.
Okay.
Like I don't my mom.
She's dark skinned.
Yeah. My cousins. I know that's weird, but
No.
yeah, I know it's, but my cousins, like
What you're familiar
yeah,
with.
what I'm familiar with, my aunties. Not I had no crush on my cousins and nothing like that. And nothing weird like that. But I always saw my mom as being strong and everything.
But
But for
that makes
me,
a lot of sense that you excuse me, were influenced by the beauty that you were already surrounded around.
I don't know. I'm trying to think what really influenced. I mean, we all looked at, like you said, like the sitcoms. I had the biggest crush on Theo from
Cosby Show? Yes, I thought I was the only one.
even to this day, he's a nice looking guy, but
Oh, Lord.
but he's not even really tall. So where the really tall came from with me, I don't know. I've always looked up to my dad. My dad's a strong guy, and my dad is very very opinionated guy, ex-Marine, right, to the book with everything. So I do believe that I really wanted that. I really wanted that strongness.
a lot of times, especially as men, we get our inventory list off of video girls and off of
Yeah.
and off the internet, if you catch what I'm saying. And it's like you don't and a lot of people, they marry somebody, wanting their wife to be this image that they've seen on the internet, and it's just like it's not real.
Yeah, and the thing is like internet videos, everything is all there to fulfill a fantasy. It wouldn't be called a fantasy if it was something that you could get regularly every day. You would be divorced and moving on and dating younger and younger and younger your whole life if you never really took a step back and thought about like in reality, yeah, I married the model today, but is she gonna look exactly like this our whole entire life? No. And
At the end, on the other side, for her, if you knew that this is what he's marrying, are you ready to keep
Commit
that up?
doing that, yeah.
Then all of a sudden one day, like, like he ain't never seen you out your wig. I'll just use that as an example. Then
Yeah.
all of a sudden out your wig, and he like, what's that? And I have heard of those situations where, like, and that's exhausting to her.
Do you think people should have a list?
There should be an expectation of what you want, especially when it comes to religious beliefs. But I do think there are certain things that everyone should put down as a, like, I won't date this person if this, you know what I'm saying? But don't let it be something like, oh, I'm not gonna date him because he has a birthmark on his cheek, like something
Yeah.
like that. Don't let it be petty things, because I've
Like, I
heard
want a
some.
woman that can cook, or I want a man that are those non-negotiables. A woman.
I
That's
don't know.
that is honestly, I've never thought about that, but I will be honest. Like, as far as the cooking, like my family, like, don't know, my family can cook, okay,
Mm.
and but in the beginning, I didn't know how Marlena was going to cook. To be honest, I didn't know. I didn't. So that for me, that wasn't an option. Like, if I had to cook, I had to cook,
Okay.
because for me, anything else, check off. I wasn't looking for a caregiver or someone to take care of me and nothing like that. Now she does do all, like, pretty much 90% of the cooking.
Mm.
Uh, I mean, because she just cooks that well. But if I had to, I think I'll be all right. But I think that's also kind of like in her makeup, to make sure that, like, she cooks. Like,
Yeah.
Marlena, like, she works from home, and she will log off on my, or as I'm leaving out to work, to make sure that I got my lunch and everything, like stuff like that. That I'm like, hey, I got it. But, like, she's like,
Yeah.
so we're gonna have things that we like and what we don't like. But I think that it all has to do, for us, our beliefs,
Yeah.
and our belief in God. I think that's why it's able to work. It don't have, for me personally, I don't think it really has nothing to do with the list. They don't have nothing to do about. And I'll be honest, like, I'm very much attracted to her. Like, I still get excited, like, when I see her, like, you know, changing her clothes or whatever the case is, or whatever. Like, like, to this day, like, I'm still like, I'm ready, But
Mhm.
honestly, um, after being together for so long, I could say that, like, you know what? Even if that wasn't the case, like, just looking at everything else that
Mhm.
of who she is, like, we can make it work. And I'm not trying to encourage nobody to go and get with somebody that they're not physically attracted to, but I'm just saying, like, where I'm at right now, and seeing so many, like, people that we know that who've been married as long as we have, and they're going through divorce, or maybe have gotten divorced. And these are people, they had that checklist, but those things really didn't matter. As a society, as a culture, as a generation, we don't know what it truly means to love. We think that, oh, I love her because of what she. No, loving her is something that's so selfless.
Yes.
It's so unconditional. It's not about what she do for me. And I know that she loved me, not what I do for her. Because sometimes, like, I know she mad at me, but she still makes sure I'm good. That's so selfless.
Yeah.
Love and lust, easily identifiable traits. Love can't wait for the next time to give. It sounds like, baby, what do you need
Mhm.
today? How can I help you? Is it how can I serve you? Lust, on the other hand, can't wait for the next time to receive. Watch this. When you coming over, man? You should buy me that. You should. Lust can't wait for the next time to receive. Love can't wait for the next time to give. So the question is, what is loving you as opposed to what is pulling on you? This is why your decisions don't line up. They can't. They can't, because God would not have placed somebody in your life to take so much that doesn't have an idea of what it's like to maintain what you already have.
I mean, that's what love is. Like,
It's a
it's
give and take.
and I really love how you related it to being yoked up, being equally yoked. Hey, can two walk together unless they be agreed? Like, that's scripture.
Yeah.
And and I really love the way you put that, because I think that sometimes we try to get yoked up with something that's just not is nowhere
Mhm.
on the
Yeah.
same page. But if that doesn't line up here,
Yeah.
you know what I mean. And I love the way and I know you heard me say this before about the Christian life should represent the cross, both vertical and horizontal. Our
Right.
relationship should be just that as well. And if that thing is not, if it don't reflect him, then it's shot anyway.
Marlena, where you said that people have to be willing to kind of change or adjust their list. So
Mhm.
here you were thinking that here's what I want, here's what I'm into, here's this. And then you meet Gus and you're like, maybe those things aren't as important anymore.
I've met some women who have these lists and they don't want to deviate. They
Mm,
don't want to deviate at all. You know, it can be someone that you think is for you, like you want this person, but if that's not what God has for you, then the right person is going to come and leave because you're too busy looking for something else that is not, your reality.
it's like going to the grocery store. You make your list and you go to
Mhm.
the store and you only looking for those things. You're like, I got my list and I'm going and I'm looking for this, and you're checking them off as you're going along. And you may miss maybe that sweater that was on aisle 7 that you've been wanting forever and is finally
Yeah.
on sale and you can afford it now, but you missed it because you have your list and
Yeah.
you're saying, I'm only doing these things. And so we have to be careful when we do have those checklists, because if you're only looking for those things, then you will overlook what might come along that journey, and not being like, oh, immediately dismissing someone because they don't meet those things. And it sounds like to me, just the theme of what you guys have been discussing is that there's only one thing on the list that should never ever change, and that is um, your faith. The core of
Yeah.
your faith is what allows you guys to work through those difficult
Mhm.
moments. Just to sum everything up, this inventory list that we're speaking of, the top of it definitely needs to be your faith. And then make sure that the expectations you do have are realistic and they can always be adjusted if necessary. But that doesn't mean committing to something that you just know that you don't want,
Yeah.
because then that becomes exhausting, that becomes daunting on both parts, because now you're nagging someone to do something and they're like, I've always been like this, what's the problem? Or the other way around, where it's like, you've never done that before, why are you, so making sure that you are already aligned first in yourself before you um, go and seeking and getting to relationships.
I agree.
Yes, thank you so much for being a part of this. I hope you got something out of it. And I can't wait to hear your feedback. Please make sure you leave a comment so that I can go and just really, really be a part of this with you. No matter what, I want you to know you do not have to do this journey or this walk by yourself. Continue to lean into this channel. We are here for you. This is a family. I want to do this walk with you. Thank you so much. Until next time, remember, every day, give everything. Later.